On Team Pep Guardiola, we have Martin Horsfield and Mr. Ozzy Powers. And yep, there they are. And on Team Roberto Mancini, we have Stephen Barsley and Mr. Alan Howarth. I noticed that the teams have both come in their little apparel there. You've got one team wearing the Mancini scarves, even though it's about 3,000 bloody degrees. And the other team has come with matching backgrounds. Okay, good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Good evening.
We're doing very well.
Good morning, here.
Very well. Just a little bit on the warm side, but I'm fine.
Right, okay. So, how we're going to do this, it's going to be a straight debate between Team Mancini and Team Guardiola. We've tossed a coin before the stream started, and we've decided that Team Guardiola is going to start their opening arguments first. So, over to you. Team Guardiola, take it away.
So, Pep Guardiola, he's not just a normal manager. He's a man who lives and breathes football. Always thinking, therefore always learning. Pep is no normal manager. He has in some way, or some people's eyes, revolutionised the game we call football. When you think you've seen it all, Pep will show you you haven't seen anything yet. Making players find new gears, ideas and new ways to play the game. He's an ultimate thinker, an ultimate learner. Winning is not enough for Pep. It's the way you play. It's the way you win. Pep doesn't see a football in a normal way. It's not just 2 boxes, 4 lines. It's 20 zones. And plays even have rules and regulations in them zones. Yeah, so to sum up, like every genius, you may come unstuck. But every now and again, you have to make mistakes to become even better. And for Pep to become even better, wow, that is some doing. That is scary doing. We will show you why we think Pep Guardiola is the best manager and why we think Man City and Pep just fit like a glove. Because like both, they're simply the best.
Right, so I see there from Martin's opening statement that he's actually addressing some of Pep's weaknesses and putting them out there to be seen. Bold strategy. Okay, Team Mancini. Why is Roberto Mancini the greatest football manager the world has ever seen, who graced our wonderful football club and brought us our first success in 34 years? Why?
Who's going to start?
Is Roberto Mancini the man?
I'll start. When Mancini stopped playing football professionally, he turned into a manager. He was already a successful player, winning with Sampdoria the Serie A, and also as captain of Sampdoria and captain of Lazio, won their first title in 26 years. Mancini is a born winner, and he's obviously has weaknesses, which is his over exuberance if they lose or not do well. The guy wants to win at all costs. That's why I think Mancini is a successful manager, because his management style is to win at all costs.
Okay, supplementals from the other team members, Ozzy and Stephen. Have you got anything to contribute?
Yeah, look, I'd like to say, we're very fortunate. Both Pep and Roberto are magnificent managers. And, of course, comparisons are hard to make. The teams play very different types of football, as we know. Pep Guardiola introduced tiki-taka to England, whereas Roberto Mancini played free-flowing, attractive football to watch. And no matter what the results, many City fans, I think, would prefer to watch Mancini's type of football rather than Pep's. So I think we have to thank Mancini for not only doing what he did for us, but also delivering to us very, very attractive football, which, to be honest, I think is better than Pep's.
Interesting. Ozzy, before you contribute, the way I would see it is that Guardiola is possession at all costs. Doesn't matter if it's in your own box, your own half, the halfway line, or the opposition's box. Possession. If we've got the ball, we can score a goal. Whereas Mancini is, no matter where the ball is, attack.
Yeah.
Maybe similar sides of the same coin, but very, very sort of different ways about going about it. So, Ozzy, your conclusion on Mr. Guardiola?
I don't think there's anything I can really add that Martin hasn't put in. And to be fair, some of the guys have put in as well. So, yeah, let's get down to the questions.
Personality test. You have your fantasy dinner party. The usual suspects are there: Einstein, Socrates, the philosopher, not the footballer, and 90s Pamela Anderson. Which of these managers would make a better dinner guest, and why? So why would your guy be the better dinner guest at this party of your fantasy?
Well, I can tell you, first of all, Roberto Mancini is far better looking than Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, absolutely. And he dresses better.
He dresses better, he's smarter, he's Italian, he's smooth, and I can tell you now, there wouldn't be a girl in the room that Pamela Anderson, she'd be all over Mancini like a rash, and I think poor old Pep would be sat in the corner on his own, sucking his thumb.
Okay, anything more to elaborate on the looks? Because it's not the strongest of arguments. I mean, you're losing Pamela to him already, so what else can we say?
And he's still got a six-pack at 56 years of age.
Yes.
Okay, so more about his physical attributes. You're still not going on with Pamela at this point. What else can you tell us about why he would be the ideal dinner guest?
Well, I just think, I mean, look, have a look at it. Roberto, he's a smooth guy, isn't he? He's a smooth Italian. He looks good. He talks good. I mean, he's a legend. He's an icon.
He is. And over the let's be honest, having him as a guest around your dinner table would be ideal. We can find out really what did happen towards the end of his relationship with Manchester City and his side of the story, which has never ever been released. And it's all with paper talk. And none of it is true or not true or is true. No one really knows.
So you'd be asking probing questions over pizza, is what you're telling me, Alan. You'd be really putting it to him over pizza. Remember, he's a guest in your house, and you're putting him over the coals.
Yeah, I would be finding out what it was like when he joined, because the club wasn't a winning club at that time. And like when he came in 2009, and he was with the club for 3.5 years, the club was at a certain point in its mentality of being a mid-table football club in the Premier League at that time, and like Gary Cook quoted in the papers when they signed in December 2009, Roberto Mancini is a winner. We are looking for him from Manchester City to turn the club into a winning club and a competitive club, and our ultimate aim is to win trophies, and obviously our aim is to win the Premier League as soon as we can. Exact quotes that Gary Cook used when he hired him.
Yeah, but Alan, I think you missed a point. If Roberto Mancini was with Pamela Anderson, he wouldn't be talking anything about football.
No. We'd be up the road.
Right. Whereas Pep might be, explaining to Pamela, how you can keep possession and, be a football team. Roberto would be working on getting Pamela into bed and her knickers down as quick as he could.
So to you, it's all about the charisma of the man. Okay, so the charisma of the man is what would make him an ideal guest. So Pep would engage more in the philosophy of life and sort of schmooze with the clientele and the other people at the party, whereas you think that Pep would be bogged down in the tactics of the actual meal eating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hear from Team Guardiola.
Well, I totally agree with Stephen, because if anyone knows, he's seen Pep. Pep is the kind of guy who likes to get on that dance floor and have a boogie. And when he's away from football, he doesn't talk about football a lot. He's on the golf course. He's talking about his restaurant that he owns. Listen, at a dinner party, you want someone who owns a restaurant to even begin with, because he knows what he's doing when he's in there to kick it all off. But Pep is... I mean, I don't know about looks. I know my missus prefers Pep over Mancini, but for me, Pep doesn't,
looking at you, I know why.
Doesn't do football outside of it. He even tells his players, go and have time off for 3 days. Do not even think about football. Ta-ra, see you later. Forget about it. Go and do what you need to do. And I just think when he's within the confounds, the CFA, and the Etihad, probably football, but a dinner party, Pep would be the life and soul of the party. He'd be the first one up on the karaoke and on the dance floor. I'm telling you. And not only that, which, Ozzy may want to talk about, he's got so much culture behind him. He's been around the world, everywhere, there and back. The man knows what he's doing. He is a well of knowledge, and I don't even mean football knowledge.
Martin,
But yeah, Ozzy,
Martin, can you
that's
put
what
the
I'm
pen,
going to
can
say.
you put the pen down, please? You've made one of our contestants leave. So Ozzy, over to you, Ozzy. What are you
I think I have to agree with Martin about Pep isn't going to be kind of be talking about football when he's whining and dining. He's a very intellectual man. He talks from the heart, really, and I can see him sat at the table just kind of oozing charisma. As Martin said, he is a very well-travelled man. He speaks, I think, four languages. So I think, it does Mancini at that. I think he would be the ultimate dinner guest over Mancini.
Right, but I've heard that Mancini speaks the language of love, and isn't that what you need a bit of?
Yeah, exactly.
Pep Guardiola walk in,
Well, let's
give
be
Pamela Anderson a little wink, and he'd be going straight home with her. Wouldn't even get into a conversation.
Stephen, it
I
looks
think
like
we'll find
you've
the
got
free-
one more piece of evidence to submit to the jury. I believe that's you and Pep,
I've actually been to a dinner party with Pep.
and you're telling us it's crap, right? Because you want to win this argument.
No, I'm not Pamela Anderson, but I'll tell you what, he was 40.
Stephen, you... Oh, okay, there we go. So Pep, confirmation, real life, that Pep can be boring at dinner parties. Okay,
And there's the proof.
all right. To settle this question, then, Team Pep and Team Mancini, what are we eating at this dinner party?
It's got to be Spanish tapas on it. Direct from
So
Pep's
a bit
own
of tippy
restaurant.
tapas then. Okay, tippy tapas from them, and what about from Team Mancini?
It's got to be linguine, hasn't it? With I would say linguine with mussels and prawns and the seafood linguine. Beautiful.
So both a little bit of an amalgamation of a bit of everything that's available. Interesting.
Yes.
Well,
I think Roberto would be on oysters, preparing himself for what's going to happen
Pamela,
over the rest
right?
of the
Okay.
evening. Yes.
Okay.
He'd have at least a dozen oysters.
The way I would add it is Italian food is lovely, but after about half a plate full, you're full up and it's a bit boring and you want to move on. Tapas gives you that little bit of summer, gives you a bit of tease, and when it leaves, you want a bit more. And that's what Pepper Mancini is. Quite simple.
I think the oysters have the same
Plus, it's more of
effect.
a dinner
You
party.
always want a bit more with Pep.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to draw a line under question 1. I think Martin might have just swayed the judges, so that is a 1 point to Team Pep. Right, moving on, gentlemen. There's still plenty of time to. Whoa! We'll have no arguments with the judges. Okay, question 2. As legacy Manchester City fans, the lot of you, we tend to relish in self-deprecation, the underdog story. It could be argued that Mancini is the man of the people, and Pep is cold and clinical. Tell me why I'm wrong, or tell me why I'm right. Over to Ozzy first.
I think, Pep has been here for longer, well, nearly one of the longest serving managers. And you see the passion that he shows day in, day out when he's at Manchester City. I know there's been some coldness maybe at times, but in all honesty, he has shown that he is the man for this job.
Any elaboration, or Martin?
Yeah, well, I'm going to bring in, you just said he's a cold man. Well, I did a little bit of research on this, and in the MEN, I did find an article. The hidden side of Pep Guardiola's life in Manchester is revealed. And basically goes on to say that he basically does what many Mancunians do. He wants his Bernard's football, he wants to pop down to the local boozer, He's into jazz, loves his jazz. Opened a restaurant in Manchester with Soriano and Cheeky, I think it was. And he said many people, these are just quotes from it. He said, I was surprised about Manchester because many people before when we lived in Munich said, oh no, it's horrible, said Turan. But he goes on, he said, many people said that, but it's good. It's a good city to live in. People said it was industrial. He said, but it's amazing. They're all apartments. He said, the weather might be a bit of an issue, but when it comes to it, he loves going to jazz. He loves rock, a little bit of rock music every now and again. And he loves Manchester. Like I said, he likes going out. He loves the nightlife. First thing he did when he got here was go around and had a look round with his wife and his children. Pep Guardiola, the last thing he is boring for me. The man has embraced Manchester like a glove on a cold day.
Right, okay. Tell me why they're wrong, Alan and Stephen. Now, as far as I'm concerned, even though I am impartial for the purposes of this inquiry, Mancini to me was everything I ever wanted in a City manager. He had heart, soul, passion, fight, desire, and he felt like a Mancunian. Is that true?
Yes.
I think that's definitely true, and there are reasons for that, because why did Roberto Mancini actually come to Manchester? Why did he come to England? He didn't come for the money. He came because he wanted to return. You know, Mancini played in the Premier League for Leicester. He understood England. He understood our football. Pep never did that, as you know, because look how he struggled in his first season with the Premier League. And this is the difference between the two men. Roberto Mancini loved Manchester. He loves England. He loves the Premier League. And that's why he came. And that's why he did so well. Totally different for the reasons as why Pep Guardiola came to Manchester.
Also, I would say he embraced Manchester and embraced the fans. The scarf made a huge point in it when he came out with this sky blue scarf, and not only that, when he as far as his heart and soul is concerned, he embraced Manchester, embraced the culture, he embraced the Manchester City fans, and even today, when he's manager of Italy on TV, when someone brings up City, he still says we when talking about City, even to today.
I have one more piece of evidence, if you'd like to look at it, and
Yeah.
to show you that Manchester will
We'll
always be
allow it.
Roberto's heart.
Yeah,
Remember that?
yeah.
No,
Embraced the fans.
Roberto paid for that advert out of his own money to thank Manchester football fans. That's the type of passion that you get from the man.
Can me and Ozzy just counter that?
Of course you can.
And not only that, you would say Mancini embraced the City fans in a certain way that did the trick by beating the filth down the road, 6-1 at Old Trafford and 1-0 in the same season. The 6-1, I don't think any City fan in the whole world will ever forget.
Okay.
And he's laughing while sat in the seat when the song of Mancini was coming out was beautiful.
Okay, Martin, Ozzy, your counterpoint?
Well, just on Stephen's point, yes, it was a beautiful piece there by Mancini. But we don't know if Pep will do that because he's not been sacked yet or left. So we don't know whether Pep will do that. So that's a bit of an unfair thing to throw it in because Pep hasn't left. So we don't know what Pep will do. On another point, I seem to remember Pep at the King Power Stadium going over to the fans, 3,000 of them in the corner, going, "We've got," and proper singing along with them.
Yeah, I was there.
Getting
that
them
night,
going.
Yeah, I was there.
Going to Anfield, going up to the fourth official, sticking 2 fingers in his hair, going, two. Pep Guardiola does not sit on that sidelines like that.
Okay,
I remember
any final thoughts?
Southampton.
Final thoughts?
Beating Southampton in the last minute. The whole squad running to Guardiola and jumping on him.
That's all I'll say about emotions, mate.
Okay.
He's doing this.
Okay, right. I've heard your reasons, I've heard your arguments, but there is only one, Ozzy, unless you've got any last minute contribution. Okay,
No.
there's only one thing that ultimately decides the fate of this question and who gets the points. The Paulie Bird derby. 6-1, Paulie Bird. Okay? Every single season, we see Pep Guardiola go into a Manchester derby. It's just another game. It's just another game. True.
Exactly.
I'm an old school.
Yes,
True.
that's true.
It's true that I'm an
Yeah.
old school City fan, and maybe
Yeah.
I need to get out of this narrative about how the Manchester derby is the most important game of the season. Maybe on some levels it is just another game.
It is.
But
It is.
Roberto Mancini in that beautiful, beautiful season, 2 victories against Manchester United were almost as sweet as winning the title. Especially beating them 6-1 in their own backyard. And Ferguson. Ferguson, in my opinion, is the ultimate football manager. He's done everything at a club. Longevity, rebuilding teams, everything. And Mancini showed him for what he was. In Pep Guardiola's time at Manchester City, he's faced Jose Mourinho at Man United, and he's faced Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not even fit to lace the boots of any of those managers mentioned. So that point goes to Roberto Mancini for having the heart and the desire in the Manchester derbies. Question number 3. Roberto Mancini lost the dressing room. There were player revolts. Has the same happened under Pep? Are the stories to be believed about the Champions League final? Or is he just a better manager? Or is it a bit of fire and shaking up regularly? Are they a good thing to just light the fire under certain players and boot players out the club when they're surplus to requirements? Or is it better to be everybody's friend? Which approach is best? Starting with Stephen.
Can I start by answering that? And you spoke about Ferguson before, and look at the fantastic players that Ferguson got rid of. You see, being a football manager is not about being a friend of the players. It's about being their manager and then respecting him for what he is. Now, yes, there's no doubt that Roberto lost the dressing room. I think the 3 players that really kicked that off was Joe Hart, Yaya Toure, and Sami Nasri. And we all know what happened to those 3. And that's what had to happen. Roberto has to have the power. But look at Pep Guardiola. Yes, he's definitely lost it as well. I mean, look at the players that we lost. Sergio Aguero. Why isn't he still with City? Because Pep didn't want him there. That's the end of the story. So let's face it.
I will say.
You can't say Roberto Mancini lost the dressing room and Pep Guardiola hasn't. They're both tough managers. They're both got to be. But hey, let's realise that Roberto Mancini had a much tougher job than ever did Pep Guardiola. When Roberto came to Manchester City, we had we'd drawn 7 games in a row under Mark Hughes. We had nothing going for us. We hadn't qualified for Europe, for the Champions League. Totally different men with different approaches, but both strong managers and both not afraid to take on players who challenge their authority.
I will say this. When Mancini joined City in 2009, he had to change. He had half a season, and from December, the season after, he had to change the team. He brought in stalwarts like Yaya, Silva, Kolarov, Dzeko, Aguero, Clichy, and Vieira and Nesri into the side. And both managers at that time, Pep and Mancini, have fallen out with players during their tenure at City. But both managers are winners, and we both all should agree that they're all winners. And when they're winners, there's going to be heated debates and heated arguments if things don't go right. And both managers have had the same situation. But one thing I will say about managers should be allowed to dictate what goes on and have the power to dictate what goes on in as far as team affairs are concerned. And it doesn't always run smoothly. Hence, the proof of that of the Champions League final against Chelsea, where Pep clearly messed up. The Lyon game where he messed up again. in the Champions League. Mancini fell out with Joe Hart, fell out with Sami and Nasri. He got rid of De Jong after the championship winning season. So there's clearly things going there. He fell out with, as we know, Tevez. But he kept on winning. And the proof of that, when he's left City, he's also kept on winning. So to be a good manager, like Ferguson was with David Beckham, got rid of him because he turned up in a helicopter. He got rid of Roy Keane for writing a book, and Roy Keane was their captain and their leader. All great managers get rid of very big players and make them decisions. And it's up to the club to stick to the managers and back the manager from there.
Okay.
So I would say that.
So you've made your case now. I will say one thing. Behind Stephen, there's a shirt on the wall that says IDOS. Before Roberto Mancini turned up, we literally were 11 idiots dreaming of success. Mancini changed that. That mentality changed. Mancini changed all that. So, what did Pep Guardiola do? Did Pep Guardiola lose the dressing room? Has he ever lost the dressing room? Has he ever lost players because of conflicts to do with football, without football? What's the story for Pep Guardiola, lads? Tell me.
Also, how many players have left because of Pep Guardiola? I can only think of one. And that was Leroy Sané. And to be fair, he just didn't put enough of a shift in. And I think it was fair that he went. So as far as I'm concerned, Pep handled that situation very well. Unlike Mancini, where, he was losing the dressing rooms with likes of Tevez, Balotelli, other players that you've mentioned like Hart. So for me, if you're talking about who's got more control of the dressing room, it's Pep.
I can't agree with that at all, because there's no doubt that Pep has had run-ins with players, just as did Roberto. I still believe Sergio Aguero would be with us if it wasn't for, some
Sergio Aguero left because he was at the end of his contract. He was injury prone. He was getting old, and just wasn't up to it. If he was good enough, he would have stayed. The club would have kept him, but he wasn't. So for me, that's not down to Pep losing Aguero. That is Aguero coming to the end of his City career, like David Silva, like Vincent Kompany, and you're not arguing the point and saying, "Oh, hang on a minute," they went because of Pep.
Can I just interject? Alan and Stephen, you'll have your turn. Just like these guys gave you a turn to talk. It's their turn to talk now. I'll come back to you after they finish, all right? All right?
Sure.
Ozzy?
Yeah, like I was saying, we've seen in the news Joey Barton talking about the way Mancini handled the dressing room, the fights, the on-field antics, even pushing Balotelli around in a training match. I mean, I'm sorry, but has Pep done that? No.
Yeah. And there's proof of that in the Amazon documentary. Go back and watch it. Pep, in the Amazon documentary, he's not shouting the ball. He goes in, he shouts 10 seconds, and he goes and brings it all back down again. And he lets the players have the speak. We've seen in that documentary, we've seen Fabian Delph, we saw other people like Kompany, all have their say. And Pep stands back, he lets them have a say, and he goes, right, because Pep says they are men, let them sort it out between themselves. Because, listen, we can only go off, like Alan said earlier on, which is quite true, with the stories that have come out. Because no one has officially come out and said, but go back to when Pellegrini was hired. There was a one word used, holistic approach. Now, they said it was a holistic approach due to the prior 2 or 3 years that they had encountered. So from the Pellegrini approach, it was quite clear they wanted to calm it all down. They wanted to relax it all, because there was stories, not just from them. There was stories from Nigel de Jong. There was David Silva was, like I said, again, reportedly only unhappy. There were players unhappy. Apparently, he became a very cold man. Now, I do take on Alan's point of, yes, you are the boss, you have to do it. But I don't think now, with footballers, I don't think it's not 1950s and 60s. We can't rule with an iron fist anymore. You don't do that in everyday job. If your boss goes in and starts shouting and bawling at you for no reason, That's why we have unions and things like that now in everyday life.
Okay. I'll come back to Alan and Stephen just to make their last little point, and then you can have your last little retort before I surmise it and decide a winner for the round. So, Stephen and Alan, any last thoughts on this question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Let's not be too harsh on Roberto Mancini and say that he wasn't a good people person, because that is totally unfair. For example, take a look at Balotelli. I mean, there was nobody more patient with a player than Mancini was with Balotelli. You know, Balotelli was a handful. We all know that. Great player, character, a lovely guy. But boy, did he give Roberto a hard time. But how many chances did Roberto give Balotelli? You know, come on, be fair. He treated him like a son. And, you know, that he was very, very good with him. And I think the same with Tevez. Look at Tevez when he refused to play and all the rest of it. How did Mancini handle that? Well, you know, in the end, it worked out. Not many managers, and perhaps not even Pep, would be able to have the understanding that Roberto has shown. So let's just never forget that.
Okay.
Mike,
I would say, my turn now. My turn now, Martin. Careful. Now, I would say that Pep not getting rid of players. Let's talk about Yaya. When he arrived, Pep, the first thing he did was he admitted on TV that he'd had a conversation with Roberto, and obviously at that time, Yaya suddenly went into the back room and out of the way. Nasri was sent to a corner with his hat on in the corner, looking at the wall. And Joe Hart was ousted straight away because he didn't play the way Pep wanted him to play. So he fell out with all those three, including Dzeko and Sergio at the end. So I'm not knocking Pep for that, because he made tough decisions to the way he wants to play the game, and I agree with him totally. So there's no reason why Mancini can't do the same. If he doesn't agree with something that's happening, he's the manager. Pep's the manager. They make decisions, and Pep has got rid of players just as much as Mancini has. And don't forget, when Mancini arrived at the club, Manchester City were at a mentality of being mid-table, win or lose, we don't really care, blah blah blah. He successfully changed the mentality of the football club, its fans,
Alan,
its players.
you're a little bit into the
officials.
weeds there, mate. You're into the weeds. We're talking about player relationships,
Yeah.
pal. All right, I'm
Yeah,
gonna.
so-
I think I think I'm gonna take one last statement from Team Guardiola, and then I'm gonna make my decision. Okay.
Okay. I was just going to counter those points. You look how both situations were handled from Mancini and Pep. Pep was professional, and that's the difference between Mancini and Pep during this, when dealing with players. Pep, came in, decided who wasn't good enough, wasn't up to his scratch for his system, possibly too old. Mancini, he kept on trying and trying, and it was obvious that certain players just weren't up to scratch, weren't right, and needed to go. But he kept on with them, and I think he kept on with them a little too long. Unlike Pep, who has made hard decisions, as Alan has said, and made the right decisions. And we haven't had the likes of Balotelli, Tevez. We haven't had those situations come out of a dressing room like we did with Mancini back then.
Okay, so what I will say is that's it now, Martin. That question's over. What I will say is, okay, so you made a point about Mancini with the sort of nepotistic approach towards Balotelli. Ultimately, that was detrimental. No matter how well the intent, ultimately it was detrimental. He put far too much focus into Mario Balotelli. Mario Balotelli rarely provided the goods, and we even saw in a pre-season friendly in California, Balotelli doing like a reverse penalty kick or free kick or whatever it was. He span on the ball. Mancini pulled him straight off the pitch. When it's in public like that, you can't hide from it, and I think that ultimately is massively detrimental towards Mancini's cause. What I will say as well is it's about succession. Now, so when Mancini came into Manchester City, a lot of the players were brought him for him, okay? And he fell out with some of the players that he specifically requested. When Pep Guardiola came into the club, he was working still with the majority of Mancini and Pellegrini's players and a few additional players that were brought in specifically for him. Pep Guardiola managed to work with players from two other managers as well as his own players. Mancini was only ever really asked to work with his own players and a few leftovers from the Mark Hughes era. Okay, so ultimately, Pep Guardiola wins this question simply because he's done it over a longer period of time with multiple other managers' players, and that's my final decision. Okay, so Pep Guardiola wins round 3. It's currently 2-1 to the Guardiola. Pep Guardiola is the City owner's dream manager. It is no secret that Pep Guardiola, as everything that's been built at the CFG around Manchester, has been with the ultimate ambition of getting Pep Guardiola in the manager's chair. So, how was Mancini ever to compete with this? Was he ever fairly treated? Us fans adore Roberto Mancini. Did our board do him wrong?
That's a hard question, isn't it, to be critical of City's board? But I have to say, yes, in my opinion, I do think that Roberto Mancini was harshly treated by the board. I think the board, listened to certain players who formed a pact against Roberto because we have to admit he'd lost the dressing room. And they wanted an easy life. And the problem with life is if you take the easy option, you often end up with the most difficult solution. And I think that's what happened. And they had to get rid of Mancini. But, it was Mancini, when did the board think about how Mancini had ended City's 35-year trophy drought? Did they think about Mancini was the man who brought the Premier League trophy to City after 44 years, which nobody had been able to do? Did they think about how it was Mancini who gave us qualification to the Champions League and took us from pretenders to be actually being a real, seriously seen team in Europe? Did they think about Mancini who brought down the banner at Old Trafford that used to always be there? Did they think about the respect of the 6-1 win that put an end basically to the United dynasty? And I'm always quite sure that's really when Ferguson decided to leave. The humiliation of being beaten at Old Trafford 6-1 by Mancini's Manchester City. It was Mancini did so much for City, far more, I believe, than Pep Guardiola has ever done, because it's not just about the trophies. It's about respect. It's about Manchester. It's about us. It's the fans and the people. And I think, yes, he was very unfairly treated.
I will say, I will add on to that as well, that when Mancini came on board, the club wasn't a winning club. He changed the mentality all right through the club, including their fans. And that was a harder job at the time. His target at that time was clearly said in Gary Cook's quote, was to turn the club into a winning club. And the target at the time was hopefully win the Premier League, quoted by Gary Cook when he signed. Which is a different target to these days now, what the owners want, because the club has moved on progressively from that point because we'd already won the league. What I would say about Mancini at the time that he was fired after the Wigan game, the respect not shown from the executives and the officials at the club when 2 days before, and I remember being outside Wembley against Wigan, but everyone knew that Manuel Pellegrini was getting the job and Mancini was getting sacked, must have left awful atmosphere in the change rooms before a cup final. So I don't blame the players for the cup final loss. I don't blame Mancini for the cup final loss. I blame the officials and the directors for allowing that information to come out into the press and around. We were all talking about it before. I remember being at Wembley myself for that day, and we all knew when I was having a pint at the roundabout in the pub, everyone knew. And I thought it was terrible the way they handled that. They did it with Mark Hughes as well, which I thought was awful, also disrespectful at that point. So the owners of the club are not always...
Hold on, Alan. You're looking to win this debate. Let's not say anything done to Mark Hughes was awful. I'm glad the guy went.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And let's face it, Mancini took us from, at that point, he took us from a Europa League, UEFA Cup team, which we played a lot of games initially when Mancini arrived, and then took promotions from that cup competition into the Champions League, and the club was progressing at that point.
Okay,
Yeah.
over to the other team for their rebuttals. Was Mancini unfairly treated by the City CFG, the City board, whoever you want to say?
Do you want me to start this, Jose?
Yeah, I'll let you start.
Was he unfairly treated? Like you said, some would say probably yes, he was fairly treated, but I would say no. For the simple fact is because if you actually look, like Stephen said, it's not just on trophies, and I totally understand that. But if we're going to talk facts now, Pellegrini won more trophies than Mancini.
Oh,
And at times, played better football.
God. Oh.
With Roberto's team.
Sorry, so I'm going to make a ruling on this. We're not talking about trophies. There isn't a debate if we're talking about trophies, so we're not talking about trophies.
I know, but you're saying, Robert, was he unfairly treated? But to the City board, we don't know if trophies were not included in that.
Oh, come on.
Well, what I will say is, Martin, that we're talking about the measure of the man. And, I mean, I don't know what the first or earliest date is that the City board and City owners ever came out and said Pep's our man. They might have even decided that Pep was their man while he was still working at Barcelona. We just don't know. What we're talking about is, regardless, let's say that Mancini, in his 2.5 seasons at City, won every trophy there was to win. Yeah? Let's just imagine that he won every trophy there was to win. Ultimately, he still would have been sacked if it's true that Pep Guardiola was always the golden boy. That's what we're talking about here. So, was he always set up to fail, in a way?
The thing is, though, is if you look at it, if that was the case, Pep would have succeeded Mancini. He didn't. You know, Pellegrini had to come in. So that kind of, I think. But, you know, Mancini lost the dressing room. He lost the confidence of the board. You know, Pep hasn't done that. He hasn't lost the confidence of the players. Hasn't lost confidence of the the board, and he hasn't lost confidence of the fans either.
You got to remember, Man City have played. We did not play one game last season. That was the FA Cup final. It's quite clear that the players, the fans, everyone is behind Pellegrini, Pep Guardiola, because to go, I think it's 62 out of 63 or 64 out of 65. That has never ever been done by any other team at Man City. Even going back to the Joe Mercer, Malcolm Allison days, 63 out of 64 games. That's never been done. We missed out on a FA Cup final, which some will say because of scheduling, really, why we lost out on that. But that's surmising. I don't want to go down that road. But for me, Mancini, and like Rob said, you said about Mark Hughes, but in a way, this job was probably always going to be they did always want Pep Guardiola. You know, I think that was very obvious from the get-go. The one thing I will say, and I know people may disagree with this, is the way Mancini came into the job is very similar to the way Pellegrini came into the job, and Guardiola came into the job very similar to the way Pellegrini. So if you look at all three of them, the way they've all gone, and the way the next managers all come in, has been a very similar way it's been done. It has been done. What people may say a bit harshly, a little bit unfairly. But this board, for me, football is now a business. Football is no longer sentiment. As much as we, as fans, like to think that.
Oh, I can't believe you just said
Hold on, Alan. Hold on. He has just made a very bold remark and statement there, which, you know, that we need a psychologist to break that down. We're football fans,
Exactly.
We're football fans, Martin. Football is all about emotion and sentimentality. If it wasn't, there would be no fans. Alan, let me make the judgments. Don't laugh at your opponents, please. Martin, I'm going to ask you to retract that statement from the evidence, because saying that football is not about emotion and sentiment, why bother winning trophies then? Why bother?
You just
Okay.
said, you just said trophies weren't that bothered at the
No,
beginning. You said
no.
trophies
You're
weren't
missing.
bothered.
Ozzy, you might want to calm your teammate down because he's losing the crux of the argument here. Martin, please continue.
Martin,
I'm still right going, Ozzy.
Oh, God.
Can I say
Right,
one?
can
I
I'm
say
gonna
one more
say-
thing
I'm
about
just gonna
this?
say, if you look at, I think Man City always had the dream. Alan, if you're going to keep laughing, mute your mic, mate.
So-
All right.
Sorry, mate. Sorry.
Right. So my point is City, yes, I think their clear intention has been to get Pep Guardiola through the door and managing Man City.
Absolutely.
I don't think many people can deny that. But
Yeah.
the thing is, for me, they've also had the intent of getting Messi through the door. Okay? They all, I think Man City board, Sheikh Mansour has wanted Messi. We haven't got Messi, and I don't think we'll ever get Messi.
No.
So even though Man City wanted Pep, there was no guarantees that we were going to get Pep. He was at Barcelona. When he left Barcelona, he went to Bayern Munich. A lot of people thought at the time, before he went to Bayern Munich, he was going to City. He didn't. And he may have not come to us.
Ozzy, a counterpoint to that could be that there wasn't enough in place yet for Pep. Pep's very demanding. He's a bit of a princess. He wants everything in place for him before he goes there. Mancini came in and was boots on the ground. He was in the trenches, Mancini. There was no academy. There were no fancy facilities. Our kit man, you had to put 50p in the machine to wash your kits when Mancini was in charge. He roughed it and he still produced results. Guardiola had silver service, mate.
You say he roughed it, but how much was he paid?
Listen, Ozzy, I'm only joking, mate. I'm not being serious.
It's true, though.
No, but true. Mancini came in and was paid a lot of money, though. He could have gone to any other club in Europe.
And Pep's not. Pep's 20 million a year.
Alan,
I'm making the point. I'm making the point of Mancini was paid a lot of money, though, to come in, and he was given a lot of leeway with players coming in and what he could spend, and he spent a lot of money.
Yeah, he certainly did. And listen, Alan will probably argue that Mancini would do it for free. I'm not going to buy that argument either. I'm going to give it over to Stephen and Alan for one last little rebuttal before I make a judgment call.
No,
Okay.
All I'll say, one thing I'll say very quickly is when Siriaro and Tiki Blanstein came on board at the end of the season when we won the league, their mind was already made up when they walked through the door at the beginning of the season. We played Wigan, so they already made their mind up before. They wanted Pep. As soon as those two walked through the door, they wanted Pep, and they wanted change, and they wanted control.
Well, I'd just sum it up in this way, and I'd just like to say Roberto may and possibly did lose the City board, but he never lost the City supporters, and
Correct.
City supporters never lost Roberto. And
Right.
that's what football's about.
So,
Support.
okay, so I've got to make a judgment call now. Now, I'm a human being, which means I've got sentiment and emotion. I'm a football fan, which means I've got sentiment and emotion. When I was called a legacy fan, I felt incredibly betrayed by the club that I've loved longer than Sheikh Mansour even knew they existed. Okay, so was Roberto Mancini let down by the club that he had brought success to in a monopoly controlled by other powers? I would say yes, Roberto Mancini was indeed betrayed. Were there some sort of inklings in the background that the ultimate plan was to always get Pep Guardiola to be the successor, regardless of the success of either Mancini or Pellegrini? Probably yes. It seems like Guardiola, this was always his ultimate destination, regardless of the Bayern Munich or whatever it was. The City hierarchy were doing everything to get Pep to the club, and ultimately it's paid dividends. Ultimately, if you are going to be sterile about it, ultimately we have seen the best football we've ever seen. The highest points tallies, the most trophies, everything is due to Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
But it broke my heart to see that we could treat someone like Roberto Mancini treated like that. And ultimately that is why Roberto Mancini wins this point. Because, Martin, football is about emotion, pal. Remember that. Pep Guardiola's worst enemy is Pep Guardiola. There is no doubting that he is a world-class manager, but he tinkers and alters and loses battles in his own head for big games. 5 dramatic Champions League exits to lesser opponents. Is it fair to say that? Would Mancini have done better given more time and this same squad? Tell me, who is the greatest manager, Mancini or Pep?
Who do you want to go first?
Team Pep.
Shall I start that?
No, Team Pep first, and Martin, please sit up straight.
Okay.
Alan, please face the camera. Come on, this is school now.
Okay then. So just get right. Is the question? So you say who is the better manager out of the two?
What I'm saying, Martin, is that Pep Guardiola potentially has lost 5 key Champions League fixtures by outplaying himself, outthinking himself. Would Mancini have done better with the squad? Would Mancini have made those mistakes? And even if Mancini wouldn't have made those mistakes and Mancini would have won those fixtures, does it ultimately matter? Or is City losing those key games? We can all live with it. We can all deal with it because of everything else that Pep has brought to the club. Tell me.
For me, as I said in my opening argument, when you have, in a way, like a mad scientist, when you have the greatest going, they are going to make mistakes. Of course they are. But that's how people learn. I've said this before. Alex Ferguson, who you said earlier, Rob, the greatest ever manager going, won the Champions League twice in 26 years, was it? So Champions League for me is not a given. It's not easy to win like everyone. So some people think it is outside of the Man City family. Everyone thinks, you just buy a load of players, have a shitload of money, roll up, and you just go straight into win the Champions League. Doesn't work that way. If it worked that way, Roberto Di Matteo, who was caretaker boss at Chelsea, wouldn't have been lifting the Champions League. They're one-off games. It's a cup competition. Pep Guardiola, has he made mistakes? Of course he has. Mancini made mistakes. Managers make mistakes. They're human beings. But to go back to Pep Guardiola, statistically, if we go right to the end of his contract, he's going to be the second longest reigning manager at Manchester City behind Les McDowell of 13 years. You had Joe Mercer on 6 years and 4 months. And if Guardiola, with his contract extension, will go beyond that. He has, like Rob said, we are Centurions, we are Formidables, we are seeing a brand of football that I don't think I'll ever see ever again. Pep Guardiola goes around the world to learn all the time. I watched a documentary once, and he even left Barcelona and went to Brescia to play with Roberto Baggio because he wanted to learn from Roberto Baggio. You listen to people within the game, Bielsa, you listen to Cruyff, when he was around. You've got all these superb managers. You never say a thing wrong about Guardiola. Alex Ferguson talks about that Champions League final when his team got absolutely battered, and he said he's never seen a team do that to him. Whether it was Messi or not, he's never seen a team out-tactic his Man United team the way he did that night at Wembley. And for me, yes, Mancini did very, very well for think. And please don't forget, me and Ozzy are not saying here Mancini's crap in itself. We're just debating on the Guardiola Mancini debate. This is not about Mancini has got a place in our hearts, most definitely. And what Stephen and Alan say has got a lot of merit. But what I'm saying is, you go back, Guardiola is 6.5 years. He has been offered. There are quotes out there that he wouldn't go back to Barcelona. He wouldn't go back to Munich because he loves Manchester. He loves Manchester City now. Yes, some will say it's because he's got everything that he needs here. Yeah. But has he earned that right? Has he earned that right after everything's done? Sometimes you got to earn your way in football. He ain't a Johnny come lately here. This was something we dreamed of when we first got taken over in 2008. And it's finally coming true. You think about it. He was 45 minutes away from completing the Champions League. He's won everything else back to back. Liverpool hadn't done back-to-back. The only team since Man United in 2011, 12, whenever it was, 13 to win back, or 2008, sorry, to win back-to-back Premier League titles. I can go on, and I can go on, and I can go on. This man, and also, he's a man of the people. Because I remember 2018, the Championship Parade, he went and got a lift. He got asked, there's loads of people outside, and for your own safety, you know, let's get you into a private thing, we'll get you going. He went, no, and he got a lift with a BBC cameraman. I went all the way back to see the people. He's a man of the people. He wants to be amongst the fans. You know, we win. We win the league, and he's on the top of the bus with a beer in his hand and a flat.
Martin, you're getting into emotional territory. I'm simply asking. Listen, Alan. This is your second warning. You're close to a yellow card. Martin, we're talking purely about whether it's acceptable to make these mistakes and whether Mancini would have done a better job. Okay? I've heard from you now, Martin. Ozzy, I'd like to hear from the other side of the argument from your team, please, before I move over to Stephen and Alan.
So I'm going to back my esteemed colleague. You know, there's a lot of passion there, which I think we all love from Martin. But looking at the cold-hearted facts, you know, yes, we can all say that Pep Guardiola has overthought in the Champions League. He's tinkered too much. Well, that's just the Champions League. As Martin said, you know, we're back-to-back Premier League champions. You know, we've won the FA Cup. We're Centurions. You know, we're treble winners. You know, nothing like that happened under Mancini. And, you know, I love Mancini. He was a brilliant manager. But when you are talking about who is the better manager, Pep every day of the week, you know, it wasn't, you know, City just were after Pep. You know, United were after Pep. They didn't get him. We got him. And look what he's done for this club.
Spot on.
Okay, I'd just like to take a brief moment here to just interrupt this entire debate and maybe take a bit of the air out of the tyres. Please stop clicking pens. Please stop slamming cups on desks. Now over to the Team Mancini to give their input as to this debate. Would Mancini have gone 5 for 5 and won the last 5 Champions Leagues? Would he have won one of them? Would he have behaved differently and picked a different team in the Champions League final against Chelsea? Are the merits of winning the Champions League more to you as a City fan than the merits of winning the Premier League with 100 points? Or stopping Liverpool from winning it? Winning the domestic treble? Where's the priority? What would Mancini have done differently with this team? Now remember, this is all big sky thinking because it's not reality. This is all hearsay, so you're going to have to come up with one hell of an argument. Over to you, Stephen and Alan.
Okay, well, it's not only blue sky thinking, it's actually hard facts. And the hard facts are that Roberto actually did a better job than Pep has actually done. And why? Well, let's think about that. When Pep came to City, he had players like Sergio Aguero, Yaya Toure, David Silva. When Roberto came to City, he had Robinho, Silvinho, Benjani. You know, there's no comparison about what Roberto and Pep have done. Both great jobs. But the circumstances that Roberto had to deal with were far more difficult. And in fact, some would say almost impossible to try and instill a winning culture into Manchester City. He had to build a winning team, and which he did. Pep Guardiola inherited a winning team. He had a winning team given to him on a plate, as did Pellegrini. And why? Because of the work and the turnaround that was achieved by Roberto. It was Mancini who got us qualified for Europe. You know, we weren't even a serious European team, Champions League team in those days. For me, there's absolutely no comparison, right? Roberto did something that we don't even know if Pep could have done it, because Pep got a winning team handed to him on a plate.
Okay, that's a bit of a side note. What about the actual direct question? You know, would Mancini have been able to replicate what Pep's done, winning the domestic trophies at the same time as getting to the Champions League quarters, semis, final?
Absolutely, he would have, because if you've got a manager who can take a team, right, that couldn't win a game, and then he's able to turn them around, right, and take them from a losing culture to a winning culture, then why wouldn't he, if he would have been left to do the job, have gone further with it? We'll never know that, but it's hard to say for me that he wouldn't have when you consider what he did in the past.
I will say this. It's very difficult to say because obviously we never know what would happen. The one thing I would say about Mancini with the team it is right now, and obviously Pep's brought these players in. Steve's got a point where at least 5 of the players that Mancini brought were the nucleus of the Pep's team during the start of his reign. And now he's got his own team now. It's only the last player of Mancini's team left at the end of last season. That was Sergio. But I would say something in the Champions League. Pep does overthink the big games. That includes the Chelsea game. He did it against Lyon. He did it against Liverpool. He did it against Monaco. And Martin touched on the point. He said Pep learns from his mistakes. Well, clearly he hasn't learned from any of his mistakes in the Champions League. Champions League is won on moments, not on consistency. We know that because it's a knockout competition. But in the big moments in the Champions League, which is what the owners want to win, and now I believe most of the fans worldwide want to win, as much as I believe the league's more important, which it is, we still have not won the Champions League. Pep's not learnt from his mistakes. Would Mancini be able to win with the team? The one thing I'll say about Mancini is when big games came around, 9 times out of 10, he would win those games. So I would say, would he be able to have done it differently against Chelsea? Probably I say he would have done. But no one will ever know. No one will ever know. Both managers are brilliant. Pep's been allowed to stay at City for 5 years. This is his 6th. He's been allowed to rebuild that team and done it successfully by winning the league. But ultimately, Pep has not reached his target, which is to win the Champions League. And clearly from Gary Cook's comments, did Mancini hit his targets and achieve his targets? Yes, he did. Was to turn the club into a winning club, competitive, and to win the Premier League, which he did.
Okay, back to Martin and Ozzy.
So what I would say is that your argument with the players that the core of that Mancini team with Pep won those trophies. During the treble, name me those players. David Silva, Aguero. That's not a core of players. That's just 2 players. That's not, goalkeeper, defensive midfield, wingers. That's just a couple of players. So you're arguing me falls flat. No,
Vinny,
yeah, but he was injury prone and didn't play very much during both seasons that Pep was there. So, for me, that argument falls flat. Pep has rebuilt this team twice. Mancini was there for 3 years, brought in a lot of players. Yeah, did well. But, when you look at it, Pep is the better manager.
As he said, Pep's done something that everyone said he couldn't do. Rebuild a team. He's now done it twice. Last season, we won 2 trophies. We played 64 out of 65, I think it was, with 1 Mancini player in there.
And he hardly played.
That last year was Pep's team. And we broke records again. 23-24 winning game run. Mancini, as much as he was a great manager, there was no way Mancini, I don't think, would ever go on a 24 winning game run because I don't think Mancini's football wouldn't allow that. Don't think he would have allowed.
A good point from Charlie in the audience is that everyone did say Pep could not bring his brand of football to the Premier League. Now, it can be argued, for as good as Mancini was, he didn't revolutionise football. The way that Mancini's teams played was already well established in the Premier League. The way that Pep Guardiola plays, nobody has ever tried before. And certainly nobody has ever been successful with it before.
Can I just raise a point, Rob? I do apologise to you. Just one very quick point. Do you know what just sums Pep up? He bought Edison. Why did he buy Edison? For the simple fact is, wasn't his goalkeeping, was his distribution. Because Edison can kick a ball the longest that anybody can. Why? Because you can't be offside from a goal kick.
And he's got the world record for it as well.
Back. You stick your striker behind enemy lines.
Well, if you look at utilising players' assets, Joe Hart wasn't the best goalkeeper in the world, but Mancini still managed to win a league with him.
No, he did. No, he did. But what I mean is, Pep thinks outside the box. Like I said, Mancini's a very good manager, but Pep thinks outside the box. Fabian Delph, Zinchenko.
I think Martin, part of the argument centres around this, okay? Not to be unfair to some of the Mancini players, but some of them were run-of-the-mill journeymen. I love them all. I love every single one of them. Pablo Zabaleta, for as much as I love the man, the personality, he was not the best right-back in the world. Jolyon Lescott, for as much as I love the man, love the personality, was not a best centre-half in the world. Vincent Kompany even. I know that I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but Vincent Kompany was an above-average centre-half. He was not a Diaz or a Stones. And he got every single last horsepower out of those players and made them produce. Pep Guardiola has been given a stable of Ferraris. Every single intricate detail. Edison, like you've just said about Edison, he was brought in for his distribution. Specific attributes and measurements and all the rest of it. It's all very meticulous with Guardiola. And yes, Guardiola has absolutely produced with those tools and those requirements. There is no doubt about that. But Mancini managed to get something out of players that other clubs would not be able to perform. If you look at, there's a current day version of it, and I like to say it's the Tottenham argument. Mancini could have won the league with that current Tottenham team. Harry Kane's never won a trophy. Just throwing that out there. Never won a trophy. But Mancini would have been able to turn that team into a trophy-winning team. I'm not sure Guardiola would have been able to. Okay, so I'm going to let you both carry on now with a little bit more of to round this argument out. Go over to Stephen and Alan for a minute.
Well, Steve.
Well, that's exactly the point, isn't it? That what Roberto Mancini achieved was absolutely remarkable. Not only because he brought a winning culture to Manchester City, but also because he really did it with a team that had, let's face it, nowhere near the ability of the team that Pep was able to buy. So what Mancini did, we'll never know if Pep could have done the same.
What I will say quickly about it as well, Mancini, when has proved his point, he managed to win the league against a Ferguson champion winning team and win the league against a Ferguson team, which was massively hard to do. Pep's never done that. Yes, he beat him in a cup final, but has never done it as far as a league against probably the greatest manager that's ever lived in Ferguson. Fact. He's also proved his point by taking an average Italian team to win the Euros against England, against everybody. And the Italian team, man for man, are nowhere near as good as the English squad, but managed to beat them. And to be honest with you, I thought beat them, even though it was on penalties, I thought they were better side by a mile. And he's done that and taken them from the lowest ranked FIFA team in the Italy's ever had, and went on a 34 unbeaten game run to win the Euros, and probably one of the best teams in the world now. And I put that down to him. So I think there's no question Mancini's a brilliant manager. And would he be able to take that Spurs side that knocked us out of the Champions League, whether it be cheating or not, and win trophies? I would say he would have done without any shadow of a doubt. And I'm not going to knock Pep, because Pep is a brilliant manager. He's done fantastically well, but he's still yet to hit his target at City after 5 years.
Martin and Ozzy?
Yeah, what makes Alan think that? Because he won nothing at Inter Milan when he went there. Didn't win anything at Lazio. Didn't win anything at Fiorentina.
Who? Hang on.
Sorry,
it's Inter Milan. Inter Milan, he won 3. What are you talking about? I've got it here. When he was at Inter Milan, he won.
What I'm saying is,
hang on, he won three Scudettos.
after Man City.
Four Italian Cups. Right, that's at Inter Milan. When he was at Lazio, he won he brought the first title in 26 years.
Yeah,
I think it was our time to talk. So
what I'm saying is, Alan, when he left Manchester City, he went to Galatasaray and he won a cup.
Yeah.
Then he went to Inter Milan for near enough 18 months, just over. Did nothing. Then at St. Petersburg, did nothing. So since he's left City in 2013, he's won 2 trophies in 8 years. Pep has won 8 trophies in probably 2.5 years at City. Everywhere Pep goes, he lifts trophies. Everywhere and anywhere, Pep brings home the goods. Mancini, since he's left Man City, has not brought home the goods.
Okay, right. So,
I'm
gonna give my summation now, my conclusion about this. So, I have argued, and you have argued, that Mancini could win trophies with Ford Fiestas. Guardiola, it seems, wins trophies with Ferraris. However, there is a key thing here. When you've got a Ferrari, you put Michael Schumacher in the driver's seat because you want the best out of the best. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mancini is an overachiever. Pep Guardiola has shown us that football can be played a whole new way, a whole new sport almost. He has gone above and beyond in every category. Every box has been ticked. Yes, Alan, you are quite right that Pep Guardiola has in some ways failed his contractual obligations, but he has also won the most games in a season, scored the most goals in a season. He's won a season with 100 points. No other Ferguson in 26 years never even came close to 100 points. Neither has Mourinho, neither has any other big boy manager. Okay. Pep Guardiola has won the domestic treble. Something that even Alex Ferguson, Sir Baconface himself, never did in 26 years. Something that Jose Mourinho has never done in English football. It's fine to say all of these trophies that Guardiola won in Spain. I don't give a toss about Spain. I don't give a toss about Germany. The only yardstick for me is the English Premier League. Both managers have had domestic success in the English Premier League. Pep Guardiola has his failings. But you know what? Sometimes when you buy a fancy sports car, it's going to conk out on you every now and then. But ultimately, it will get you over the line first. Okay? And that is why Pep Guardiola wins this round. It's a close one. Don't get me wrong. Both well-reasoned arguments. But Pep Guardiola wins this round. I really do sincerely hope you enjoyed it. And if you know anyone else who'd enjoy stuff like this, because we love doing it, this was our first one. It was a bit of an experiment. We thought we'd start off on like a toxic sort of subject almost, but we've kept it on the right side of the line. Like we say, we all love Mancini. We all love Pep. You know, we're not hating on any manager, and we're certainly not dismissing the trophies that either of them have won, because we've all been City fans long enough to know what it's like for a City to not get bloody trophies. So at the end of the day, we're in the sweet shop and we've got the keys. You know what I mean? We'll take it how we can get it. I really, really sincerely hope you've enjoyed it, and I really hope we get more people to join in. And in future as well, your interaction is key to these. You know, get your questions in, get on Twitter, ask us questions on Twitter, do whatever you want, and just join in, because that's what we want. We want you guys to have a voice as well. So, you guys want to say anything as final thoughts?
Yeah, I'd just like again to kind of say I really appreciate everyone who's watched us tonight, who took part. It's much appreciated from the guys. We are working really hard to get more content out to you guys. We are working on stuff behind the scenes that we want to bring out shortly. Please subscribe to YouTube. Watch us on here again. We are going to be doing more debates, and they are going to be some spicy ones like tonight was. So I look forward to seeing you all there.
I will say about something very quickly. Now, the channel's only new. It's growing. You know, press the subscribe button on YouTube and the like button. That's very important. But also pass it on to your city mates as well. Get them involved. And as we grow over the next few years, you know, we'll get more involved and do more of these debates and have more of a laugh. And that's what it's about. So take it easy, guys.
I'd say that Twitter is the key to all of it. If you follow us on Twitter, you'll find wherever we're going to be, because we're everywhere. We're on TikTok, we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We're all over the place, in a good way, not in a bad way. The best way to find us and get that synergy is to just give us a follow on Twitter, and you'll see from Martin or myself or Alan or Ozzy exactly where we're going to be, and then you're never going to miss out. This stream itself, there's going to be highlights of this stream that are going to be going on YouTube as well, so you'll be able to watch it back, have a laugh, pick us apart, make comments about how we're stupid or how we're great or whatever. Tell us how you feel, and that'll be on YouTube. Tell us how you feel on Twitter as well. So thank you, everybody. I've had an amazing evening. This has been a great debate. Thank you to the audience, and I can't wait until we do this again. So, Stephen, thank you very much, mate.
Martin, my pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Martin, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Alan, thank you very much. And Ozzy, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Take care, guys. This has been fantastic.
Come on, City.
Come on.